Do you feel that people who carry knives have mental mental health problems?
Some may do. People carry knives for all sorts of different reasons. Some, thankfully very, very few, carry a knife because they want to harm somebody, and that's why they take that knife out into the street. Some people carry them because they're a gang. Some people carry them because they think it's fashionable to carry a knife, or a good thing to do. Some people are encouraged by other people to carry the knife, or to carry it for somebody else. And some people carry it because they're scared and they don't know how to defend themselves. And that's why they carry it. You have to take each individual and listen to their story, in fact, to find out why. But there will be hundreds and thousands of reasons why people carry knives. But the bottom line for anybody in the community that carries a knife is there a risk from that knife. Because if they get attacked and the individual that attacks them doesn't have a knife, that knife could be used on them. And actually that's quite common. So if you look at the dangers of just carrying that knife, yes, you can be stopped and arrested for carrying a knife. It is against the law to carry a knife in the street, unless you have a very, very good legal reason to do so. You have to get that from some people. The other thing is that knife can be used on you. So if I'm a young person that takes a knife out into the street because I'm scared, that knife could be used on me. I'm effectively carrying my murder weapon around with me. Why would I do that? Why would I take that risk? Don't put more knives on the street than are already there, because the likelihood is that it will get used on you. And just think about why you're carrying that. And we talked about these positive messages and positive decisions that people take. If you make a decision not to carry a knife that day, actually that might be the day that saves your life. You might never know, but it also, if you carry the knife that day, that takes it to that next step, and you get attacked by somebody, or you end up in a fight and that knife is used, you could end up in prison for the rest of your life. You could end up being the victim of really serious stab wound, or you could end up with a police officer like me coming to your parents' door and saying, "I'm really sorry, but they're not coming home today." All of those things are because you've made a choice as an individual to carry a knife. And I just implore people to think just for a moment before they leave that front door or back door with that knife in their bag, that knife in their hand. Don't carry it in the street. And don't deposit it somewhere so that it can be used by somebody else.
Have you ever thought, like you and your police officers thought that music is influencing the young children, young people to carry around knives? Because in songs like that I listen to, well, I don't really listen to music anymore that much. Like in the songs, like I back up the 10-inch shank and then I shove it in the person and everything, and that's what, yeah. And then my other brother was just telling me the other day that he stopped listening to this music when he was like around my age because of this, because like they don't really speak. What they're saying doesn't really make sense, and then so you start listening to American music. I'm not saying American music is way better than this music, because American music is kind of like, it's dirty and everything like that. But yeah, do you think it's because of do you think the grand music that us young rap music, us young people listen to, is influencing people to carry knives around?
Can do. There are some very positive rap artists, and there are some less positive rap artists. Yeah, it was the same when I grew up in the 1980s. That there were some artists that some music was negative and some was positive. You kind of make a choice as to which music you're going to listen to. For me, it was a mix of both. But the reality is that there are some artists that encourage through their music bad things to happen. How some rap artists treat females, for example, and how that plays out in music. How they encourage people to carry knives. Not everybody does this, it's just some artists. But I don't think I'm going to be able to change that. But it's a matter of probably young people saying, do you know what, we want to listen to positive music. about positive influences, about making a difference to our lives in a positive way, not a negative. And if you stop listening to them, oddly enough, people stop producing it. Because behind that rap artist, particularly the successful ones, are producers and sales. And if people stop buying it, they will stop making it and do something else. And it is absolutely the voice of the community, the voice of that fan group that decide whether or not to listen to it.
So if I'm a part of a gang and someone told you that, oh, I think she's like carrying a knife and doing like bad stuff and all that, how would you go about trying to actually see if I'm doing bad stuff? Like, would you spy on them, or would you just be direct? Or?
Spying is a bit strong. We do all sorts of different things. Chances are someone would knock on the door and ask. The first port of call is to go to the family or go to that young person and say, hi, we're here to help. Do you want to be a member of the gang? Sometimes they tell us to go away, and sometimes they don't. The reality is, yes, we can. We've got all sorts of different tactics that we use, and some of them are secret, but they are more covert, with all sorts of different. We call it surveillance in essence. And yes, we will, if necessary, use surveillance to put people in prison. If we think they are going to cause real harm to people, yeah, we'll do that. And I actually think that the community supports us in doing that. If I knew that somebody in my community wanted to kill people, I would want the police to do everything they can to stop them. And we will. And if that means knocking down their door at 4 o'clock in the morning and 25 police officers going running in shouting police, that's what we'll do. That's kind of the worst case scenario there. And actually we work with all sorts of different people. So we work with the Youth Offending Service, we work with schools, we work with all sorts of different groups. And sometimes it is just conversations and directing people in the right way. Because gangs are actually only a small part of our community, a very small part, a very negative part in many respects. But I also understand why people join gangs. They want to be part of something, they want to have identity, they want to make a life choice about perhaps money, depending on what the gang, how the gang operates, and they want material things, trainers, jackets, whatever it may be. And sometimes gangs provide that. But the gangs that I operate in terms of my career and what I do for a living, most of those gangs are very negative. Yes, they will give you an identity. Yes, they will buy things for you, but they want something in return. And often that something they want in return is very, very negative.
To kill someone.
Yeah. Can you just stab that person to prove that you're good enough to be in our gang? Can you just carry these drugs for me? Can you just go down to this train station and deliver this package? You don't know what's in it. Can you just hold this for me, or conceal this for me, or take the rap for this for me? So, can you take the blame for something that's happened, and then I'll look after you? Or they start to intimidate your families. This person's in a gang, they're part of my gang now. You, as a family, mum, dad, you leave this lad alone because he's with us now. That happens. And that's quite a frightening place to be for young people. And gangs will target younger and younger audiences. They will target your brothers and sisters that are 10, 9. And I know this goes on. And it's, we police can't be there all the time. Your peers, the people that you trust, can't be there all the time to look after. Which is why you have to make life choices about who you tell when these kinds of things happen. Or you know people that are in that kind of world. Some people call it being a grass or whatever. Do you know what? I think it's about looking after the community. I think it's about looking after what matters to us. I think it's about protecting your family and your friends. That's not being a grass. That's not wrong. However you dress that up, if you have some information, anybody that has information that is going to protect somebody else, then I think it's another life choice as to whether you give that to somebody that can do something with it. So, to answer your question, the the gang issue is a big one in our communities, and it's really damaging. But we all have a responsibility to stand up to the plate and say, look, this needs to stop. And that information often comes from really tiny bits of information. The police, it's effectively we're building a jigsaw. When we're building a case, we're building a jigsaw. The tiniest piece of information, I saw this person going down this street at this time, might make the difference between solving a murder, protecting somebody, saving somebody's life, saving a friend's life. Yeah. If you look at the murders we've had in Croydon in the last 12, 18 months, the support from the community afterwards was fantastic. And lots of people came together for vigils and for support for that family. Where was that support beforehand? I know it was there in some cases, I know that. But was there a piece of information that somebody had that could have saved that young person's life? Well, no, I will probably never know that. But that haunts me. I really hope that if that's the case today, if that's the case tomorrow, that somebody says enough is enough and gives us that piece of information that saves that person's life, so that we don't have to have a vigil. We don't have to light candles for somebody in the high street. I don't want to be in that position, and nor do those families. And we have an opportunity at some stage in our lives potentially to protect that person. I'm passionate about this stuff, I really am. It means something to me. I want to protect everybody in our community. And I know that 99.99% of police officers and of the community want the same thing. But we have to start talking together, which is one of the reasons why.
So going back to people not knowing about the laws and stuff, about like, what about if they're too scared to ask a policeman or woman if they, like, what the laws are? So what about if they're too intimidated, so they're scared? Shouldn't a police automatically just say, okay, this is the law, blah blah blah, and we're going to do this because of X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
So shouldn't that automatically happen instead of them having to ask?
Yeah, people can ask in all sorts of different ways, or they can find out for themselves if they want. Google is wonderful. Most law is available on Google. If you just Google it, what is the law on drugs, it'll come up. But you can also ask in different ways. So if somebody doesn't want to talk to a police officer, they can talk to a teacher, they can talk to a parent, they can talk to a guardian, they can talk to anybody that they trust, they can talk to friends. How do I find out about this stuff? They can go into the Citizens Advice Bureau or the library. They can look online. There's lots of different sources. But what I would say to people is never be afraid of just asking the question. If you walk up to a cop in the street and say, can you just tell me the law on this? Most of us will know, depending on the law. There are some really obscure bits of legislation that we don't necessarily carry around with us. But most people will know the basics of law. Certainly most police officers should. But you can ask anybody you like. Teachers will be very supportive and help. Just people that you trust, your pastor, if you go to church, anybody that you think you can trust, just go and ask them. You can always contact the police in different ways. So you can call us, you can go online and speak to us, you can use Facebook and Twitter and all those things. The police now have a Snapchat account. So we have, that's predominantly photos. I'll leave that to somebody else. But you know what, there are lots of different ways of asking. And the schools officers are very good as well. So they are about in the schools, and you can ask them at any time.
You see young people, like, you see when we're outside, like, we like to put our hoods up. Do police like normally target them, or like is it they target, like when they call for someone that they're looking for that has drugs on them, do they normally look for people with their hoods up, or?
Well, what we tend to do is go by the description that we're given. So if we've got a description of a guy 16 to 18 years of age, because we tend to get given an age range rather than they are 17 or 13 or whatever. And we're looking for a guy 17 to 20 years of age, say, wearing a dark hooded top and jeans, well, that's most of the population of Croydon. There's a lot of people that match that description. So we would look for other things as well. Are they carrying anything? Have they got a bag with them? Where exactly were they? Which direction of travel did they take? So which way are they going? And we'd use all of that and then see who's around. But also what time of day it is. If somebody matches that description at 3 o'clock in the morning, they are more likely to be the right person than it is at 12 o'clock lunchtime in High Street, because there'll be hundreds of people that match that description. So it does depend very much on the description. Some descriptions are very, very easy. Your naked male running down the street that we talked about earlier. Fairly easy to spot, to be honest. But that's not always the case. So yeah, if people have got hoods up, we don't stop them because they've got a hood up. If it's raining, lots of people are going to have hoods up. If it's the height of summer and people are wearing really puffy jackets, done up with a hood up and a balaclava on, yeah, we're going to stop them. Because they want to know what you're doing in the middle of summer. It's 25 degrees, 30 degrees outside, whatever it is, and you're dressed up like an Eskimo. Why? And there might be a very good reason, in which case, thank you very much, sir or madam, off you go, have a good day. But equally there might not be, there might be something a bit more sinister to it.
If someone reports an incident, can they remain anonymous, or do they have to state their name? Or?
They can say they don't want to be contacted. It depends on what it is. If they have evidence that's in relation to something like a murder, for example, we would love to know who they are and love to take a statement from them.
What about if they want to remain anonymous?
They can do under normal circumstances, they can remain absolutely anonymous. And if they've got information that they just want to tell the police absolutely anonymously, they can use Crime Stoppers. So if they use the Crime Stoppers line, which is a telephone line, the Crime Stoppers line is completely anonymous.
You see, when someone's killed someone and they go to prison for that, and they come out, you see the person that they stabbed. Would you move another person to a different area from the person that stabbed them, or would you still leave them in the same area?
It's down to them to choose. Sometimes we put conditions on people when they're released to say they can't live in certain areas or can't go to certain places. They tend to be conditions that are only in place for a number of years, so 2 to 3 years normally. To say you can't go to the high streets in Croydon, for example, for 2 years. And we can do that for a whole number of different reasons. If people are persistently doing antisocial behaviour, for example, we can put orders in place to stop them from doing that and ban them from certain areas or doing certain things. So in the past I've banned people from going down certain roads, or banned people from certain types of behaviour. You can ban people for all sorts of things. You could ban people, for example, from carrying a mobile phone or having a mobile phone. If to do that would stop and protect other people, and it has to be justified in law. So I can't just say to you, I couldn't suddenly write an order out in my office to say, right, you can no longer carry a mobile phone. That would be wrong. I don't have those powers, and nor should I. But if somebody was using that mobile phone to commit an offence or a series of offences, then I could potentially go to a court, stand before a judge and say, I would like to stop this person from carrying a mobile phone because they are using it for organised crime, say. And the judge would then decide whether or not that is reasonable and decide whether or not they could do that.
If you were in a court and you had to make a statement as a police and someone deemed it to be false, what would you have to go through? So would the case have to be continued?
If they make a deliberate false statement, that's an offence. They can't do that. And there are a number of bits of legislation that, depending on how far it got through the court process, which might come into play. So everything from wasting police time to perjury, which is lying in a court or lying to a court. And that in itself can carry a really severe prison sentence. So courts take people lying to judges really seriously. And if you make a statement that you know to be false, They take that very seriously. And it can absolutely affect the case. We would never knowingly take false information into a courtroom and use that to get somebody convicted of an offence, because then the police officers commit offences and we'd go to prison.
So what would happen if a police officer knew that a statement was false and it was brought to court and they knowingly knew that it was false, but because of their own judgment, instead of using the law, is personally what they felt was right, they let them go on, and they later were found out to know that that statement was false and the case has already gone through. What would happen to them? What precautions?
What would happen to them? Ultimately, they would lose their job, they would probably go to prison, and they would also probably lose their pension as well, because police officers pay into a pension scheme as well so that we can retire at some stage with some money. They would lose all of that and almost certainly go to prison. Because we're not anything special, police officers. We're members of the public. We are members of the community who work for the community, in the community. We just happen to wear a uniform and have certain powers that are given to us by our communities to allow us to do our job. If I lied on a statement or to a court, I would have exactly the same penalties that a member of the public would have. I would also have additional penalties because of the job that I do. Because I'm in a position of trust, if I did that, I would be letting the police service down as well as letting my community down and letting the court down. So actually I'd probably be punished more than a member of the community, because I'd certainly lose my job, I'd certainly lose everything that I'd worked for, my career would be finished, and I would almost certainly go to prison.
You see, when you found knives in anything, what's the biggest one you've ever found?
Well, we find machetes, we find swords, we found crossbow bolts, screwdrivers, cycle spokes.
A screwdriver?
Screwdrivers, yeah. People have been stabbed by screwdrivers. Stanley knives, you name it, we've found it in the streets.
Has anyone ever been stabbed with a spoon?
Probably a sharpened spoon, yeah, I thought so. I would almost bet my career that somebody somewhere has been stabbed with a sharpened spoon. You can be stabbed by all sorts of things. And people carry all sorts of things, bits of plastic, sharpened bits of plastic, because they think they're not going to get stopped and they're not going to get searched for that piece of plastic. So sharpened credit cards, for example. I've seen people do that. Or people putting bits of metal alongside the edge of the credit card and sharpening that. People carry things and conceal things in lots of different ways. Or people buy them online, lock knives and those kinds of things. We've found all sorts of weapons. Crossbow bolts. I've seen people stabbed with a crossbow bolt that they've taken with them. So somebody's had, probably a grandparent or something, who's had an antique crossbow on their wall and has never noticed the crossbow bolt missing. And that young person has been carrying it in their pocket and ended up being stabbed with it.
Do you think that police need to start going on, like, checking people's history, like, to see what they buy online? Because I think that's where most young people buy their knives. Because I know people my age, we have credit cards and buy anything on the internet. Like, there's nothing that can, there's no age restriction that shows you that.
Yeah, you're right. We're working really closely with some of the suppliers of knives online to try and understand how we can better protect young people from buying these things online. Some of the knives that people are being purchasing and bringing into their homes are really dangerous. I don't want these people to buy them. I don't want people to waste the money on them. A, because if we find them, we'll take them off them, and they're just wasting the money. But B, because of the harm that these things can do. And some of the knives that you can buy are designed to cause really, really nasty injuries. Some of the knives that are out there are designed to cause as much damage when you stab somebody on the release of the knife as when you stab somebody. They're deliberately designed to cause serious harm and mutilate.
Why would someone make that So aren't knives
I don't
supposed to be
know.
for cutting things, like
Yeah.
not people,
Yeah,
food?
you buy a bread knife to cut bread, don't you? You buy a carving knife to cut meat. I cannot understand why anybody would want to buy a knife that is designed to harm people. And these things are designed to harm people. It's nuts. Sometimes they're called combat knives, so they're called all sorts of different things, but the only purpose for those knives is to cause harm to people. And they, in my view, they shouldn't be allowed to be purchased for any reason. I can't see any reason to have that. But don't forget that people carry kitchen knives as well. So we often see people with kitchen knives. Now, there's a question as to where they get them from. My guess is they get them from the kitchen drawer or from the knife block at their home. So I would implore parents to just check. Have you got all your knives with you? If not, ask the question.
Well, the thing is, with parents that don't exactly care, so parents that are maybe, yes, say not around or have things to do and just trust their child, put ultimate trust in their child, and their child goes behind their back and do these types of things, then what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, I know, and people's lives are all very different, and some people have guardians, some people are in foster care, some people live with sisters and brothers. I'm not looking to judge any individual, and particularly the young person that makes that choice to go outside with that knife. But what I would say is try to encourage your peers, young people throughout your environments and your communities to make the choice themselves. Because you're right, some parents don't care, some parents won't know, some guardians and foster carers and things won't know what's going on. Or that young person will deliberately make the choice that I'm going to do this anyway. And you can't necessarily stop that. But it is that young person's choice. It is that individual choice of carrying that knife out in the street, of concealing it locally so they can use it if they need to. They make that choice. And when they do that, they put themselves on offer for the police to enforce what's going on, to arrest them. They put themselves on offer to cause harm to other people, which means that they end up in prison, or worse, dead. And it means that somebody could potentially be harmed by that knife being on the street. It's really difficult, it really is, and I absolutely get that people's lives are very, very different to everybody else's. Everybody has a different life. Some people's lives are really tough. I understand that. And I really do. I won't bore you with the stories, but my father was very poor when he grew up, very poor. And he made life choices when he was a young man around what he was going to do with his life. And he made the choice, I'm not going to live like this. So he worked really hard and did everything that he could to make his life better. And he had some help around him. He met some people through his work when he started work that helped him through that. They gave him access to college courses and access to night school, and he worked really hard and did very well as a result. But those choices that you make as individuals are the choices that will define who you are. So when you go to school, when you decide to take up a hobby, when you decide to go for a career, the life choices that you make day in, day out will affect your future. Whether you can access different services, whether you go to prison, whether you don't go to prison, whether you're successful, unsuccessful, it's all down to you. And if you talk to some of the greatest people in the world, the richest people in the world, they will all say the same thing. Fundamentally, they will say, I worked hard, I tried, I failed, I tried again, I failed, I tried again. It's all about perseverance and it's all about life choices. And that's how we beat knife crime. We beat knife crime by saying, this is a choice. You make the choice. And if you make the right choice, everybody around you, your community, the police, the local authorities, the health service, everybody will support you in that life choice. And that is a promise that I will make to you. I will always support people in trying to make the right choice. But what I'll also do, because I have to, is enforce the legislation and the law for people that make the wrong choice. But it is their choice. Can I thank you? I've really enjoyed it. It's been fantastic. What I would say in terms of just a closing statement, if I might, is the police service in London can't work alone. We can't succeed alone. We have to work alongside young people. We have to work alongside our communities, our schools. We can only make a difference if we all work together. Anything I can do to help that,